Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our Q&A part of the San Luis Obispo Film Festival. My name is Preston Allen, and I'm one of the volunteers. And the film that we're going to be talking about today is This Is the Way We Rise. I hope you enjoyed the film. The film is up for an award, so please, at the end of all your film viewing, go through and make sure to cast your vote for the film that you really enjoy and want to give us feedback on. First of all, let me thank our sponsors, the community sponsors, Jeff and Carrie Heller, the Bloom and Masaki family, and Erica A. Stewart and Shay Stewart. Also our major sponsors, the San Luis Obispo City Council Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Grant, BHE Renewables, American General Media, and KSBY Television. We could not have done this without these sponsors, and we certainly really appreciate all of their support. So why don't we just get started by me just basically saying that I really enjoyed your film. It really captured the story with a nice little blend of some history and emotion. It was a very powerful message in giving voice to change, and I really enjoyed watching it, and I'm sure our audience did as well. So can you tell us a little bit about writing of the film, the shooting of the film, and the end results, whether they were intended or a surprise to you?
Ooh, great question. Aloha, everybody. I'm Kiara. I am zooming into you from my home, the lands of the Kanaka Maoli people in Hawaii. I always think that if you're doing your job as a documentary filmmaker and you're listening along the way, the film you end up making is not necessarily the film you thought you're going to make. And I think this film definitely fell into that space. When I first began the project, the film is part of a collection of an anthology collection of films supported by PBS's American Masters and Firelight Media. The goal was to have filmmakers of color create short films about artists of color. And so as a Hawaiian, I thought, okay, who is another Hawaiian that I'd love to feature? And I'd been quietly watching Jamaica Osorio's work for a while. I love poetry. I love slam poetry. I love the emotion and the performance of it. And there's something about it that's super raw. As a Hawaiian, our language and how we present ourselves, it's very poetic. So if you listen to a Hawaiian song and then you hear the translation, you will know that the majority of the music is all metaphor and simile back to the natural world. And so poetry is inherent to the Hawaiian language, but I think one really cool thing is, slam kind of preserves that sensibility as a Hawaiian, but does it in like a new way. And I wanted to present someone from our community in a new way to the rest of the world. And I'm a verite documentary filmmaker, which means I like to observe real life and then see what unfolds. And with this project, I thought, oh, this is going to be my first time to plan something out. And I was like, really proud of myself and nervous. And I was like, you're going to write this and you see what it's going to be. And this is really going to challenge you. Can you actually write something? And then 2 days before we were supposed to film, Jamaica texted me and she said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to film with you. And I said, okay, what's going on? And she informed me that she was going to go to Mauna Kea to support the protection of the mountain. And so she was like, I'm going to fly to the island of Hawaii, 45-minute flight from where we live. And I said, okay. And I said, I'll meet you there. And so in an interesting way, the whole plan, all the things we thought we were going to do, it got tossed out, and it was start over again, and really just forced me to fall back into the thing I knew better, which is just following real life as it unfolds. And so the piece kind of became a combination of a little bit of the plan, like, this idea of creating a profile on an artist, but watching an artist find her creative center again.
Yes.
That was a long one. Sorry.
No. Oh no, that was a great answer, because your film was very complex. There was just so much visual stimulation there that you could almost, at least from my perspective, do a whole documentary on each different little piece. So I really enjoyed the way that you pulled that together. Um,
You want to know something crazy?
Go ahead.
The film's only 12 minutes, but it has about 45 minutes worth of content in it. So if I was to lay every shot end to end into it, it's like almost an hour's worth of content. So there's a lot, there's a lot of image in there. It's a lot to pack in.
Yes, yes. It was a quick 12 minutes. It was really awesome. It was beautifully done. So many folks can really create to the creative process of the spoken word and slam poetry. Can you tell us a little bit about Jamaica and what was it like to work with such an artist? And also, were you working with her before she went through her dry period, or after, or how did you roll that out in terms of the film?
When we first started talking about doing the project, I didn't know that she was, that she hadn't written for a while. Um, and she didn't know how to present that. I think for her there was a little bit of frustration that a lot of what she was known for and what a lot of what she was asked to present were things that she had created many years prior, and so it didn't feel immediate to her. And
Mhm.
there was a frustration, like a frustration that she felt about where she was at in her process. And I think everybody knows what it's like to have a dry spell.
Yes, yes,
And I think that I didn't know. And through the course of the project, that was something she shared with us. And it became a big part of the conversation, which is, you know, she found she she found what she wanted to say again when there was something to say something about.
yes, yes. And did that unfold as you were making the film, or is it?
Yes.
Oh, wow,
So it was
wow.
crazy. I mean,
It-
we watched the poetry like come out like a waterfall, and it was pretty cool. It was phenomenal.
yeah,
It was beautiful to see somebody find their voice again,
yes,
and like exciting.
yes. No, you did. That was so amazing the way you rolled that in.
We
Uh,
were lucky.
yeah, I know. Well, talent, and skill set. So yeah, no, absolutely. Um, I really love the line in the film, and I'm not going to quite give it justice because, but the poem, a poem belongs to the island, basically.
Mm.
Um, and how did the location of Hawaii contribute to the story?
Mm. Oh, I think as an indigenous or native person, like as someone who's like part Hawaiian, I think the connection to the physical space of Hawaii is powerful. I think for Hawaiians that leave Hawaii, this place is always referenced to as home.
Mhm.
Um, it's hard it's hard to separate yourself from this place. And so for Jamaica as a native Hawaiian, the connection to home, the connection to the protection of home is core to who she is. And
Mhm.
so these islands were essential to this story. And I think also this idea, as a Hawaiian, I call it Hawaiian IP, Hawaiian intellectual property.
There you
Um,
go.
yeah, it's very different from Western intellectual property. So
Yeah,
like if I create something from a Western perspective, I have the ownership over it, right?
right.
From a Hawaiian perspective, if I make something for somebody,
Mhm.
then that belongs to that person. If
Mhm.
I write a song about so and so, then that song is about is that it now becomes the owner or it now becomes the property of that person. So
Right.
it's a really different way to think about it, and it almost makes it a gift, right? It's a gift.
Yes,
I
yes,
write the song for you, it's not mine, it's a gift. And I think when we were making this film, it took a lot of the pressure off of me because it wasn't about my work, who I was. It was this is a film that was for Jamaica.
mhm,
It's her film. This is a film that is for the community because it's about community action. So, you know, it's not about me. And sometimes it's a little bit easier.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, that was beautifully presented because I too would want to believe that I'm writing for something else and not for me. And just when that was said, it was almost like that's how you want to lean into it. that you're really giving of yourself, not to yourself. So, I love that part of the film. How
And I
come?
guess,
Oh, go ahead.
no, and just like, ideally I'd like to think also, and maybe I'm leaning in one direction too hard, but hopefully it's mutually beneficial that,
Yeah,
you as the artist get something out of the process, you get something out of gifting, right?
right.
There, there is a benefit to you being generous,
Yes,
and the recipient gets something out of it. So there's an exchange there. So it's not, it's not martyrdom.
yeah,
It's shared.
it is shared. Yes, that's beautiful. Yeah, thank you. How complex was it to get the White House footage? What was that process
It was
like?
easy.
Was it?
Can I tell you why?
No,
It's
please. I was
it's
curious.
public domain.
Oh, and just happenstance that.
If I went online, I went online, I found the video on YouTube, downloaded it, and because it was issued by the White House, it's public domain property. I ran it by the lawyer approved it. Yeah.
Yeah, wow, wow. So, and did you have to go through a lot of video to get to her part of that program for that evening, or did hers pop up and you were able to
Oh, good
take that
question.
space? Yeah.
That it was just that one clip that popped up. So it was a
Wow.
gift. And I think
Gotcha.
that speaks to how powerfully people seek her work online.
Mhm.
There are a lot of views and a lot of videos available to, just that her discrete performances. So I could just
Yeah.
pop in and find them.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I
Awesome.
did all the archival. I'm I did all the archival research myself with some help from some pretty incredible people, but like, I had to make sure I was asking questions of other people who were smarter than me at it, for sure.
Good, good. I thought it was beautiful. It just, yeah, it was really well done, well placed in the film.
Thank you.
The film for me was a really strong connection between art and social justice and bringing that space together in 12 quick minutes. What was that like for you as a filmmaker to be in that space? And are you more leaning on the art interest or the social justice interest, or just a combination of both?
Ooh, good question. I think the answer starts with Jamaica.
Yeah.
I think for Jamaica, um, art and activism go hand in hand.
Mhm.
They're true to her as a person. So separation of the two would have been very difficult. I think if you are doing a film about poetry, it needs to feel poetic. And so I think it would be remiss if we didn't have some sort of like creative sensibility to the way that the film was presented. Um, I think for me and my cinematographer Chapin Hall, who I collaborate with closely, one thing we've talked about is that poetry is non-binary. If we talk about metaphor, if we talk about simile, it's about taking two things that don't necessarily belong together and creating something beautiful out of it, right? A third thing, something greater. And that's where the idea of the split screen came on. Like how do we take these images and juxtapose them and create a new meaning? Or what does that do? Is that a and I picked one thing, like I tend to pick one thing. I'm like, okay, what's one thing that we can manipulate for this film to really stay authentic, but also have a style? And so for this project, it was okay, we're gonna split screen to have a visual poetry to the piece, um, and make sure that we're sort of like we feel like poetry, just like Jamaica, and
Yeah.
then and again leaning into the activism because that's who she is.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That was beautifully done as well. It was a nice way that you did that. So,
Thank you.
um, and then kind of along that point too, how was it to be in the mix during the intense scene when it was, we know the difference between science and development, and the individual talking about, please hear our passionate plea, why are you doing this to us? And I just kind of got the sense that you were there like watching that all unfold, because that's how I thought I was there, watching that all unfold. How was that, or is that how that was done? Or talk a little bit about that scene.
Oh, great question. I think that this film is a company is like a collaboration between a lot of people. So the footage in that pivotal scene is something that was shared with our project from filmmaker Mikey Noy, who dedicated his life to staying there. I think that the protection of Mauna Kea spanned over many months, and I wish I could have stayed there the whole time. But practically speaking, I couldn't do that. I couldn't
Right.
do, the embedded filmmaker thing. And so there was something very beautiful about the filmmaking community that was up there. There was a lot of sharing. And so, my gratitude to Mikey and to a lot of the other filmmakers who were up there to kind of document the peaceful protest and protection of our sacred sites by our people. It's what we would call kapu aloha, this sort of idea of peaceful resistance. And I think that, yeah, yeah. So
Okay. Good. That was a beautiful scene. Beautiful scene. So
yeah.
very powerful. It was really gripping. It was like I don't know. It just touched me. Just that whole.
It felt wild because even though I wasn't physically there,
Yeah.
this is the power of social media and this moment in our world. Like Hawaiians were live streaming off of their phones. Like it was like the Hawaiian coconut wireless was on fire. Like I spent my days, if I couldn't be up there, I spent my days tied to social media because what we were seeing unfold in real time was unbelievable.
Yes.
It was just to see the collective action and truly like people just down the street, people at the mountain, like everyone, it truly felt like a tidal wave of community support like I'd never seen in my life. And it was in some ways, I feel like it was dumb luck. Like if I hadn't had the timing of following Jamaica at the time, like I don't know if I would have had the opportunity to like see some of those things that I saw firsthand.
Mhm.
Um, but I think Jamaica would say it wasn't dumb luck. It was the design of our elders.
Yes. Yes. And it was beautiful the way that you ended the film with that. You just kind of went from that moment to just Jamaica's head just laying down, and just releasing it all to the people, and it was just beautifully done. And then it was over. I was kind of like, oh, it's over. But it was a beautiful way to end it, though, because you really did make that transition for us, and that she was still there at the end of the film. So I really enjoyed that part. So. All right. Well, those are all the questions that we have for you. And so we enjoyed our conversation. How do people keep up with you or follow you? Or what do you have anything else in the queue?
I do. I am working on my first animated short, and
Oh,
so
okay.
that's a historical piece for children.
Okay.
And I am working on another feature-length documentary. Um, and yeah, join me. I mostly post on Instagram about work, so
Okay.
it's Kiara Lay Lacy, Ciaralei
Okay.
Lacy. So join me there, and yeah, thank you for watching.
Um, well, we really appreciate you being a part of our film festival. Your film is amazing. Our sponsors are very lucky and very excited about supporting this particular film. So we'd like to thank them again.
Thank you.
And they're just they're a good group, passionate about both social and artistic issues, and so it's almost like they were driven to the film. So we really appreciate it. So make sure to go out and do your voting part. So as you wind down your film viewing opportunities, and we really appreciate all that everyone has been doing to support the film festival in the way that has been delivered this year. And we'd like to thank you very much, and thank you too for your contribution to helping our small community and be engaged.
I love Slow Town. I wish I could be there with you guys. So next time.
Next time, next
Next
time
time.
with your new film,
Yes.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you very much. Take care.
Aloha. Mahalo.
Oh, thank you.